Welcome back to the channel. Thank you so much for joining. How are you? We are going to talk about a recommendation that has been made to Rachel Reeves that once we go through this conversation, I think you might agree is going to be one of the easiest ways in which she could plug the black hole. But it's not going to be palatable from a public facing point of view, and it's certainly not going to be something that Labour are going to agree to do lightly. To their credit, they've tried to avoid this in everything they have done thus far. But the numbers don't lie. And I'm going to show you some numbers in a moment. This is be from the financial year 24-25 that paint the picture clearly as to why this is probably one of the easiest options that Rachel Reeves has to plug the black hole. The question is she going to do it? And this is my question to you. After you've heard everything that I'm going to share in this video, I'd love for you to tell me whether or not you think she should go down this route or not. And if you don't, please share why. If you agree, please share why, because I think this is worthy of a conversation in the comment section down below. So let me just show you the article. But before we jump into this, look, if you're finding me for the first time, I would love for you to consider becoming a subscriber to the channel, trying to grow this year. And consider and hitting that notification bell. You get notified every time I upload another video like this. And it's a small thing, but tap the like button. It just gives a nod to the YouTube algorithm to say that you enjoyed it. And therefore it gets pushed out. This video gets pushed out to other people who may benefit from this conversation as well. Let me just show you the article. Let me show you the suggestion. Here it is. So the suggestion is to raise income tax by 2p to fill the black hole. This is what Rachel Reeves has been told, and this is by the Resolution Foundation. Now they're saying here that they also urged the Chancellor to use her budget to increase soft drinks industry levy and apply a carbon charge for long haul flights. Now we're not going to focus on those two latter things. We're going to focus mainly on income tax specifically. What do you think of this? What's your immediate reaction? My immediate reaction to this will, for all intents and purposes, mean that Labour have to break a manifesto promise if they go down this route. Because as you know, when they were running to get into office in the general election, they basically they they hamstrung themselves because they said they were not going to increase income tax, national insurance, or VAT. And those three categories of taxes account for the largest pots of money that the government generates when it comes to the tax revenues in this country, about £1 billion. I'm going to show you the numbers very shortly. But this is what the Resolution Foundation are given as their rationale behind this. So they said the Chancellor should increase income tax by 2p in a pound while at the same time cutting the rate of national insurance by the same amount. The move would raise £6 billion because income tax is also paid by pensioners, landlords, and self employed, while salaried workers would see no increase in their tax bill. So, a few things to unpack in this little paragraph right here. The first is this idea that that she should increase income tax by 2p in the pound, while at the same time cutting the rate of national insurance contributions by the same amount. So, if you remember when Jeremy Hunt was Chancellor, just before the general election that year, Jeremy Hunt had a reduction to national insurance contributions, right? This will effectively reverse one of those changes that they gave. And this is something that people have said for some time now, since Labour won the general election, that, if we're so tight, why not just reverse that and then, maybe put it into income tax? And when we get into the numbers shortly, this will start to make sense. The other thing to unpack here is that the move will raise £6 billion because income tax is also paid by pensioners. So clearly, we've got 13.1 million pensioners in the UK right now in receipt of state pension. They basically want to ensure that they can maximize the take from pensioners in tax payments, obviously. And this will also encapsulate landlords, self employed. The thing that I'm not too sure about here, and I couldn't quite wrap my head around, is how salaried workers would not see an increase in their tax bill. I'm not an accountant, so maybe if an accountant is watching this right now, please tell us in the comment section because I'll be interested to know. I mean, it's a 2p increase in your tax effectively, albeit small. It must trickle down in some way, shape, or form to your pay slip. So I'd love to know a little bit more if you're an accountant. If you can explain that, that'd be amazing. So this is the controversial bit, right? This is the controversial bit. However, any such move would technically break Labour's manifesto pledge not to increase income tax, national insurance, or VAT. Now, talking about the numbers, and the numbers do not lie, let me just show you this. And I just want you to pay attention to this section right here. So you've got in the yellow here, you've got income tax, you've got national insurance contributions, you've got value added tax of VAT, right? So this data is from the 2024-2025 tax year. And so far in income tax, the government has been able to raise £301 billion, which is effectively 29.7% of the tax take so far. National insurance contribution accounts for 172.5 billion, that's 17%. And VAT is 170 billion points, well, 170.6 billion, which is 16.9% of the tax take. Now, these three combined add up to about 63, 64% of the income or the revenue the government generates in taxation. So the reason why I say that Labour kind of tied their hands behind their back when they said they were going to exclude these taxes from these categories of tax from any increases meant that the largest pot of money that you generate money from automatically is off the board. You're restricting your options. And if you look right down here, it says other taxes down here. So other taxes will include excise duties, stamp duties, council tax, business rates, and inheritance tax. Look at how much that accounts for in the overall tax revenue, 27.3%. So even income tax is a larger contributor to government revenue than all of these other taxes combined. And so when we say that this is probably the easiest way, the easiest thing that she could do to help fill the black hole, no wonder why, because income tax is circa 30% of the entire revenue that the government generates in taxation. So this feels like the lowest hanging fruit, the best place to get a win quickly, but it will require them breaking their party manifesto promise and saying, look, unfortunately, because of the way things are right now, we're going to have to make this really difficult decision and increase income tax by 2p in the pound. The question is she going to do it? And all of this is made worse because currently our cost of borrowing has absolutely spiraled out of control. I mean, you're looking at, some of the long-term cost of borrowing in the 5.5% range. That's long-term borrowing. And this is a byproduct of the economy not doing so well. And because the pound keeps losing value, the confidence doesn't feel like it's there. So in those kind of circumstances, when you have to borrow money like the government is borrowing, and our borrowing has just gone through the roof as well, the cost to borrow that money becomes so much more expensive. To break this down very, very simply, imagine as an individual, right? You're currently in debt, your credit score is on the floor, but you have a bank that you can go to who will lend you money. Are they going to give you that money at preferential rates, at low, low rates? No, because you're already struggling. You're already in debt. You're not really putting in a lot of income in any way. In fact, if you look at our GDP versus our debt, our debt's more than our GDP. So we're actually spending more than we can earn. So imagine that. You're not even bringing enough money to cover your bills, but you still have someone who's willing to lend you. They're going to add a premium to the cost of any money that they lend you to mitigate risk. It's kind of the same thing when it comes to the government. So, with all of these factors and everything that Rachel Reeves needs to contend with, Is she going to go for the lowest hanging fruit? Are they going to stick to their guns and try and keep their promise? I have no idea what they're going to do. There was a great comment on my Instagram earlier this morning when I posted this on Reels in short form, saying, "Well, why don't they think about actually reducing business rates, giving a break to businesses, reducing, taxes, and allowing people the additional money to basically spend? It circulates in the economy, and therefore, because it circulates in the economy, it can help with business revenues, which then in turn comes back in taxes." I'm sure they've looked at that equation. I'm not an economist. I'm not an accountant in that regard. So I couldn't tell you what the numbers are behind that without really looking into it. But I know that they'll be looking at all of the options at the moment, or at least I hope, right? Maybe I'm giving a little bit too much credit there. But here's the question to you again. What do you think she should do? Do you think she should just increase income tax by 2p in the pound? Let me know in the comment section down below. I'll see you tomorrow. Cheers.